Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. I am going to talk to Mr. Dan Haberkost today. Dan started at the age of 25. That's amazing by itself. I wish someone would have told me about real estate 15 years ago. Then I would have started at around age of 25. But he has managed to build an impressive real estate business portfolio, and that has allowed him the freedom to live and work wherever he wants to, right? So this is what we talk about all the time, that we of course want to invest in real estate or cryptos or stocks or whatever to have some curves. When we start, it's about generating multiple streams of income. But in the end, you want to have the freedom, right? You want to go away and do whatever you want to, right? So Dan started in the world of real estate investing when he was a teenager, when he managed a portfolio of properties for his employer at that time, while still in high school. So that's amazing, man. I really want to know about what was going through your mind at that time.
Sure.
But welcome, Dan, and welcome is the founder and CEO of Front Range Land LLC. So I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you, Alpesh. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I hope I can provide some valuable info for the audience and maybe you as well.
That's great. So I think I already spilled the beans, but tell us something interesting or funny about yourself.
Yeah, well, so something interesting. I am a huge outdoors person, so I love to snowboard, mountain bike, hike, climb all the hardest 14ers with mountains over 14,000 feet here in Colorado. So yeah. So I mountain bike pretty much every day.
We needed to chat about this before. I don't want to, get sidetracked, but I just did my first 14,000 Mount Whitney hike.
Oh, you did Whitney? That's not an easy one.
It's not an easy one.
That's awesome. Okay.
I was dying.
Talk about that.
22 hours straight.
Oh,
so it
man. Yep. Yeah, that's a long day.
Yeah,
that's a long day.
A long day and night, actually, right?
Yeah.
We started at 9:30 p.m. on Friday, and we finished the next day, Saturday, late evening.
That's awesome. I'll have to ask you about that. I haven't gotten out to do Whitney.
Yeah,
but,
so I love hiking and running. I'm an outdoor guy. If someone allows me, I'll be sitting outdoor every day doing nothing. So or biking, as you said. So I don't do mountain biking, but biking or running or hiking. That's awesome.
Anything to enjoy the sun and weather.
Yeah, we'll have to chat. So that's great. But how did you become interested in real estate?
Well, it goes back to when I was a teenager. I ran a farm in high school, and at the same time, the owner had a small portfolio of rental properties, and he had me manage those for a good portion of the year while he would travel. And I'm not sure if I put that in the bio there, but that experience taught me how not to invest in real estate. He had very, D+, C- properties. He didn't take care of them. Very confrontational dynamic with his tenants. They all disliked him. Constant issues.
Slumlord.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember ripping up carpet just covered in some sort of animal feces on a hot Ohio day. It's humid and I'm sweating. So yeah, that was an awful experience. But running his businesses for him, and then in college, I actually managed a landscaping company. Those experiences at a young age and in conjunction with school were very valuable because they made me a bit precocious, I guess would be a good way to put it. I had a lot of experience by the time I was 20, 21 years old. And so while I was finishing up college, running that landscaping company, I thought to myself, okay, how can I take these skills that I've learned and apply them to some sort of business or investing so that I can, put myself ahead here as an adult. And I started read about equities, bonds, real estate, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad that really stuck out to me. Of course, as with everyone. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then at the same time, while I was at work, one of my coworkers at lunch goes, yeah, my wife and I moved downstairs in the duplex. Tenants moved upstairs, so they're paying the mortgage. And I thought,
how's that?
Well, that's an interesting idea. So at that same time, I was reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I knew I wanted to do something, and went off and bought a duplex before I graduated college a couple months later after having that conversation. So that was how it started. Ended up moving to Colorado because I didn't want to stay in Ohio for my whole life. I
Nope.
love the sun
No
and the
one
weather
wants to
here.
stay there.
Yeah, nobody wants to stay in Ohio.
Not Midwest.
And anyways, bought another house hack here. And it was at
Ah,
that point I had two properties, and I realized if I want to scale an investment portfolio, I need to figure out how to make a lot of money, right? You hear all the low and no money down strategies when you're starting, and they're great for buying a property or two, maybe. But if you really want to build a business, it's a lot easier if you figure out how to make a lot of money. And by
yes.
business, if you want to build an investment portfolio, having
Right.
a profitable business or very high income job, those pair very well together. So I went out and I looked at potentially, maybe I'd be a realtor or be a wholesaler, right? I was exploring different options, and I actually met someone at the local real estate group here in Colorado Springs, which I now host actually. And he had been for his whole life developing all over the West Coast or the West side of the country, Colorado, California, Nevada, so on. And he's about my dad's age, he's in his 60s. And so I spent a good amount of time helping him in his business while learning what he was doing. And then eventually I just took that and ran with it. And that's where Front Range Land came from. So Front Range Land is my active business, which is land, the buying and selling, some for cash, some for notes. And then I take the best parcels and I build on them, just simple spec houses. And then that feeds the investing, right?
Yes.
Because that creates the cash to then put into long-term assets. So that's really the model. And where I'm at right now, what I'm working on doing, I've gotten the very basic parts of the business. So the houses, the GCs, take them and run with them once they're started. My acquisitions manager and the realtors I use, they basically buy and sell the land for me. So I am working on progressing to much larger parcels and actually doing the subdividing, platting, bringing utilities to them, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And that's kind of the frontier for me because I have not yet done that, but I'm working on it.
So that's great how you explained it. So you started from a small property management to landscaping, and you explained it so well that you want to generate this massive cash or massive wealth so that you can put that money in long-term real estate, right? And long-term
Yes.
investing. And this is what I tell people, that if you don't have money, right? Money should not be a problem, because if you don't have money, you can generate that. You can do, of course, what you are doing, development, but wholesaling, flipping, right? And take that cash and then put it in the long term, right? Because that all of that, land flipping or flipping houses or wholesaling, that's an active business.
Yes.
You got to be involved in that. You need a team, a solid team around you to take care of a lot of things. And of course, there is also tax. There are no tax benefits pretty much, right? You get, because it's all short term. Right. So that's why you want to take all of that and start putting money into long-term assets. And that's what I do as well. I pretty much invest in cryptos, right? We were talking about it. And if I have short-term gain, I try to, pull that over into real estate side.
Yep. Yeah. Depreciation is definitely a beautiful thing.
Yes,
So
huge.
the investing and then the active businesses, they pair very, very well together.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for my Bitcoin mining fund, because we are using machines, we also depreciate. So this is why I loved it, because we are able to do bonus depreciation, 90+% in the first year for all the machines. So you get the cash flow per month and you have depreciation. It's like real estate.
Yep. Same concept. And it just allows the exponential curve, right, of the compounding to take off much quicker. The starting conditions are very, very important if you think of a logarithmic function.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us about your first experience managing rentals.
Yeah, well, that was like I was talking a little bit about in high school. Now, those ones, of course, I didn't own, but yeah, just frustration all around, right? That lesson stuck with me forever. I never, you hear a lot about people where you are, for example, in an expensive place like the Bay Area, investing where I'm from in Ohio. And what a lot of those people don't realize is what the numbers look like on paper versus actuality are two very different things. So I'm getting off a little bit on a tangent, but those early experiences managing low, C minus, D plus rentals in not very good areas taught me I don't want to own that. So just, buyer beware as far as out of state investors. When you talk to, local realtors and investors that are trying to sell you something in the Midwest, a lot of those markets, I would find someone you can trust, boots on the ground, or go there yourself, because you're likely never going to get what is on paper because there's just so many frustrations with those types of properties. And so my first experience with a property that I actually own, so I bought that duplex when I was 21, and I did just about everything wrong. In hindsight, didn't negotiate very well. My realtor, in hindsight, probably didn't have my best interest in mind and just wanted a sale. Yep.
Most of the time they don't. I learned that.
Yeah. Well, your interests aren't necessarily aligned unless they're thinking about the long term. The tenant that was existing, so one unit was vacant, and then there was a tenant. He ran off, and I allowed him to use the security deposit as last month's rent. Big mistake. Don't do that, because there was all kinds of issues. And then I had to spend money to repair those things and remove all this junk. So I did everything wrong, but that's okay because I learned quickly, and I learned on a $134,000 property as opposed to some of the far more expensive properties that I own out here, right? So it's just like with land, right? Some of the first land deals I did, I bought lots for $1,000 and sold them for $4,000 or $5,000. If you lose $1,000 for most people,
not a problem.
You can handle that. But now, it closed on one the other day. It was $20,000. I'd much rather have made my mistakes on those $1,000 lots as opposed to the 20. So that was a long answer, but my first experience, both for someone else and then for myself, managing rentals weren't very pleasant, but they taught me what not to do, and then also what parts of the business I need to offload, because I remember I actually renovated the other unit in that first duplex. And I showed pictures to a coworker, and she laughed at me, and she goes, "Are you kidding me? Those colors are terrible." And I don't have a sense for that sort of thing. So I shouldn't be doing renovations, and I shouldn't generally be doing property management. So
this is great, and I'm glad that you're sharing your true experience and not showing what you're doing right now. And I was laughing because I have said this on the podcast so many times, but because you pointed to me saying California, so it has happened to me. My very first investment, sitting here buying a $35,000 property in D- neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio, and losing my every penny. That's my first experience in real estate. So I was laughing. I'm like, why is he talking to me?
Yeah, man. Cleveland, bad in the Midwest versus bad out here are two very different things.
Huge difference.
There are part. Yeah, so
I learned that pretty bad. Yep. And I bought it without seeing the property. And then after a couple of months, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to head out there. And when I went there, I'm like, why did I buy it here? What did I do here? So I lost every penny in that investment. But as you said, you learn from those mistakes, right? That's the whole point. Means you can listen to this podcast and learn as much as you can, or go to bigger pockets. But unless you take that action and you experience it yourself, you are not going to learn those life lessons. This is great. So I have another question about, tell us about one of your most interesting deals.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, since in the very recent past here, bought a new house, great deal, owner financing, 3% permanent mortgage, which is awesome. My contractor's 75% of the way done with the rehab. It was a huge rehab. We had to lower the whole house and replace the water and sewer line, complete gut remodel.
Oh, lower the house, huh?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was a little bit
I have not heard of that.
It worked great. But anyway, so he had an assistant, and I get a call from his assistant the day that they're doing the water and sewer line. So whole front yard is excavated. It's a small, quarter-acre lot. So dirt spilling onto the neighbor, onto the street sidewalk. And his assistant goes, "Dan, I don't know how to tell you this, but Jeff got arrested." I'm like, what?
The contractor?
Yeah, Jeff got arrested. My contractor, he's gone. He's in jail. So I go to bail him out because I've known this guy for years, and he's not a bad guy, just a little bit of a child sometimes. And no bail. Can't even bail him out.
It's not bailable? Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So anyways, this has turned into an interesting deal. Had to scramble to find a different person to do the sewer and water line because, hey, this is just a big red, it's a liability. It's a neighborhood with kids everywhere, and there's a big hole in the ground. Plus, screaming for the city to come give us trouble. So anyways, got that handled, went and talked to my contractor. Turned out, long story short, without getting into it, he looks to be like he'll be getting out next Monday. So he'll finish the work, but that's one of them. And you're going to have wrenches thrown into the project or of whatever you're doing every day. Like when I have friends that want to start a business, I tell them, hey, you're going to get just kicked in the teeth over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But starting a business is oftentimes working for zero or what feels like $0 an hour at first, so that one day you can work for many hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands.
Tell me about it.
So that's one interesting projects. And then in 2020, right during the pandemic, actually bought a house that had a prostitute and wanted felon in it. Of course, I didn't know that. Do you want to go through that one?
Sure.
Okay. So first lesson on this one, I got the deal because there was a new wholesaler at the real estate group here in town. And most of the time people show up, they say they're going to be a wholesaler and they just disappear because it's a difficult thing to do, but people hear it doesn't require as much money. So they just say, oh, I'm a wholesaler because they want to get in. But I gave her my number because worst case scenario, I mean, I just, there's really no harm in doing so. She gets a deal the next day. And not only that, but she goes to send me all her pictures on her Google Drive. And she accidentally shared her cash buyers list and it had 4 people on it. 4. Because she was just starting and I was one of them. So I jumped on that because it was a very nice house up against a park.
You're like, I have the deal now. I have the buyers.
So it was a junky house in a great neighborhood, great school district, back up to a park. Anyway, so buy the house and it's just a cosmetic rehab. It's a full cosmetic rehab, but that's it. None of the structure was falling or anything like that. And it turned out we were able to get the tenants out, thankfully. We were patient with them. We asked them, made sure they had somewhere to go. We didn't just show up and say, get out. And that's an important caveat to the whole conversation here, because in hindsight, this could have gone really poorly. And I say that because a couple days after they left, we get a knock on the door and it's the police there to arrest the son because apparently he was a wanted felon. I'm not sure what for, but had to explain that they were gone. And then the dad comes back, he had forgotten something. And it turns out that the son's quote unquote girlfriend was in fact a prostitute, which is why she was so friendly. But anyways, so the second point I want to make in that story is that it's important to treat everyone that you deal with well, because they could have made that a huge headache because this was during the pandemic.
Yes.
So we would not have been able to get them out of there.
Yeah.
So I didn't just show up and say, hey, get out, or, just send them a 30-day notice. Went, sat down with them, talked through, okay, hey, do you have somewhere to go? How much time do you need? Was trying to handle the situation very tactfully. And I think given what I know now about these people, that was very worthwhile and could have turned out badly if I had not done that. So anyways, that was another interesting deal.
So let's talk about what is infill development.
Yeah, great question. So the key significance of the word infill is all of the upfront work that goes into preparing land for development has already been done. So the platting has been done, subdividing, all the utilities are there. Think of just a lot with houses on both sides. That's what I mean when I say infill. So the power lines there, water and sewer at the street, everything's ready to go to build on. So that's the significance of infill, because if you want to go out and take a big piece of raw land, there is a lot of preliminary work that goes into getting that to the point of being buildable. And you can do this, but to make that profitable, generally speaking, you're taking huge tracts of land, subdividing it into hundreds of lots. It's several years, generally millions of dollars, so those are big projects. And infill is very simple and easy. So that's what I mean specifically by infill, is that the lot is quote unquote shovel ready.
I see. Okay, so that's what we are doing here in Central California right now, because we are building about 8 houses and they are pretty much, the land is right between 2 houses. And, So, but even that process itself is not easy. That's what I'm learning.
I was going to say, in California, how long does it take to actually get the permit?
Yeah, we have been working for 6 months.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Every time we submit, you missed this small thing. And then we resubmit, can you attach all of them together? And there is always a new requirement. So
and then you get put to the back of the line.
Exactly. So it's been difficult. But I'm knock on wood. We are hoping by end of this year, we should be able to hit the ground now. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So we are almost there now. How did you get started in this new development, right? What was your first foray into it and how did it work out?
Yeah, everything I do, if it's not something new, if it's something that people have already been doing, I try and just go find someone who is where I want to be and learn from them. That's one of the best ways to shorten the learning curve. So the guy I referenced earlier that I met at the real estate group here in town, he lives a little bit south of me in the market that I do most of the land and development in.
Oh, okay.
And I met him when I moved here in 2018, helped him in his business, and at the same time was learning. And over time, we've just become friends. He's an investor with me now, and I really just picked up the ball and am doing the same thing he did the last 40 years. So that is really how I learned about building houses, through him. So mentorship.
That's awesome, and that's very much needed, especially for something like this, where you're not just buying one single family house and renting it out, right? That anyone can do. But when you are doing development, or if you are investing in large apartment buildings or mobile home parks like I do, then you got to find a mentor or partner. So no,
Yep.
that's true. Hey, what are some of the gotchas with infill development?
In this market specifically, it's going to vary from market to market.
Oh, okay.
But well, because it all comes down to zoning and availability of utilities,
Wow,
right?
I see.
So in this market that I'm in, there's a couple, there's random sections of town where the pipes just stop for the water and sewer. And you wouldn't know that if you didn't verify. So
Yeah.
no matter what, even no matter how assured it looks that there are utilities, I always tell my acquisitions manager, call the Metro District, which is the agency that oversees the area, and verify that water and sewer there. So that's one of the biggest ones. I know someone who bought a lot, just assuming it had utilities, and why wouldn't it? It looks like it did. There's houses nearby, nothing. It was going to be just an astronomical number to extend the water and sewer. That's probably one of the biggest ones. The other one is just with general contractors, just like you hear investors complain about contractors and remodeling homes.
Yep.
General contractors, you can run into the same thing. So make sure whoever you choose to work with is qualified. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is number one, have they been in your market for a while? Number two, have people personally use this person. So get referrals. Look and see what their presence looks like online. Do they have reviews? I have one mom and pop GC who doesn't really have an online presence, and he's still good. So that's not a make or break thing.
Right.
But go look at some of their work. That's the last thing too. Go look at the houses or apartments, whatever it is they're building. Are the job sites clean? Is there garbage everywhere? So if you do a number of, talk to people, get referrals, you can find good GCs that way. But really, really need to take your time there, because picking the wrong one can cost you a lot of money and cause all kinds of issues. So those are probably the two biggest ones I would say right off the top of my head in my market.
And what is your best and worst development deal?
Good question. So worst is easy. There was a house where we had the land and got a pre-sale on it, right? So a realtor had a client who liked the lot, wanted to build a house on it. So we took him to the GC, and great. On paper, that sounds awesome, right? Historically,
easy.
Pre-sales are great. Well, not when you sign the contract. What was it? August 2020. So lumber spiked shortly thereafter, ended up, making a very small amount of money on that one. Like, I want to say $6,000 or something. It was bad because everything spiked. It didn't go
crazy.
Well, just on a single family house. And I actually think one of the ones I have in process right now will turn out to be the best one. So I got a lot on a street that was being repaved and closed on it the week it was being repaved, because there is a larger developer that's doing a subdivision all around it. It just so happened there was a few lots still owned by individuals that they didn't get, and I got one of them. So everything around it has been improved, new roads, all of the utilities have been improved, right? And brand new nice houses going in around it. So there's over $100,000 of spread there, with the whole basis being about $250,000. So that's a really solid deal.
Great. Oh, wow.
Yeah, honestly. So I think that will turn out to be so far the best one.
Oh, that's perfect. So last question before we take a break. How can one get started with infill development? What's the process?
Well, again, there's different nuances and subtleties to different markets, but it all starts with buying the right piece of land. So a lot of the land I get, I just resell, or I shouldn't say but, it's the wrong word. If I get a lot that is flat, very easy as far as utilities all being there, soft dirt, which there's just certain parts of my market that have softer dirt versus others, just shale. So that's going to vary geographically, obviously. So talk to people who know in your market, whether it's the engineers or the GCs. And it's in a nice location. So perfect example, one of the houses I'm building, I got it for $1,000. It's across the street from the golf course, all utilities, nice houses around it. So that one, I immediately said, okay, this is a spot where I want to build a house because it's just such a desirable location and I can get a much more substantial spread off of it. So it all starts with buying the right land in the right location and ideally undervalued because it gives me such an increase in spread. When, let's see, on that build, I think the loan for the build is $210 or $215 and the land cost was $1,000. So that is not normal. Usually land is what, 10 to 15, 20% of the cost of development. That just gives you such an increased spread. So that's step number one, get the right lot with all utilities in place in the right area. Because you can't, if you get it cheaply, but it's by a bunch of crappy houses, that's going to make it really hard to sell. So great lot, utilities available in the right area. And then from there, if someone were asking me this, I would tell them to go find someone that's already done this so that they can give you the right general contractor. They can give you the right construction lender, give you an idea of what sort of plan you need, the engineer or architect. It's so much easier when you find the right person who's already doing this. So that's how I do everything.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. I actually learned a lot today already. So let's take a quick break. And after the break, we'll go through the same questions I ask every guest.
You're listening to the Wealth Matters Podcast. The Wealth Matters Podcast. For more info about what we do, check us out at wealthmatters.com. It's wealth, W-E-A-L-H, matters, M-A-T-R-S.com.
Welcome back to Wealth Matters Podcast. Dan shared a lot of golden nuggets about infill development. Thank you, Dan, for that. Are you ready for fire round?
Yeah, let's do it.
Would you be changing any business or investment strategy after this pandemic is over?
Probably the biggest thing is I haven't done any pre-sales. So because commodities have cycled so much, lumber has come back down.
Yes.
But quite literally every line item on my cost breakdown has gone up. So there's just so much uncertainty in the supply chain. I'm not pre-selling these. I'm waiting until all the lumber has been ordered, all the major components of the home have been paid for, and then we put it on the market. So that's been the biggest change. And I'm just building fewer houses and selling more of the land because the velocity of capital is really phenomenal with buying and selling a land.
Right. You don't have to wait for that long. Correct.
Yep.
Favorite real estate or finance or any other related book?
I like anything by Howard Marks. So the most important thing, Mastering the Market Cycle, and his blogs. Very clear, calm, and rational thinking from someone who's been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah, he's awesome. Mastering the Market Cycle was a great book. Yeah.
Yep.
Any tool or website you recommend for your business or maybe, just for finding deals?
As PropStream, I use PropStream constantly. That's where I pull all my data for land or houses or anything, and it works great. So PropStream's been great.
Any advice for beginner investors?
Yes. Get clear on what you're trying to accomplish. Then look at the different strategies available to you and find one that aligns with what you're trying to accomplish. So make sure you have clear goals. And then pursue that one thing relentlessly until you have success in that. Don't go in 5 different directions. So clear goals, a strategy that aligns with it, and then stick with it until you're successful.
Hey, so I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I don't usually ask this question to everyone, but I just saw that Zillow announced layoff for 25% of their staff. So where do you think this is going now? Because we all know it's been too frothy. We have hit the bubble. Where do you think this is going?
Oh, man. Having just referenced Howard Marks, I try not to predict the future. What does he always say? The macroeconomic future is unknowable. From what I read about that specific case, I do think that Zillow just did not manage things properly and overpaid for these houses. All the other iBuyers are still going as far as I know. So I do think that's more a mistake on their end. I just try and control what I can control, which is how am I capitalized? Right? Do I keep cash aside? Yes. Do I buy assets that are cash flowing? Yes. And do I keep my personal expenses low? Yes. So that way, if things turn tomorrow, I can stop, assess, and pivot appropriately, because there's always a way to make money in real estate if you understand the asset, right? If it was 2008, you can go buy non-performing notes at 10% on the dollar.
Crazy. And even just the houses, right? We have seen in West that those houses have tripled in value.
I know. Well, the last thing I'll say is to answer your question a little bit. I think I was looking at a chart the other day that showed just equities straight up, real estate straight up, everything straight up. And I was talking to a friend. They go, "Oh, is there going to be a crash?" And I said, "I think there is a crash, but it's in our dollar, not in the asset."
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah. Too much money printing and the inflation. Yeah, we are going to see something.
It'll be an interesting couple of years, I think. So we shall see. Yep.
How do you give back?
I actually host the real estate group that I initially got a lot of value from when I moved here. So take a lot of time just to talk to people who are new and learning and trying to get started there. So as of now, that's the primary thing I do.
How can my listeners reach out to you?
Facebook or Instagram, just Dan Haberkost.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dan. Have a great day.
You too, Alpesh. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing!